Looks like the Red Sox are going to need Brayan Bello to take a massive step forward this season, but can he do that? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and the Boston Red Sox currently don't have an ace on their pitching staff. The hope amongst fans was that going into the offseason, the Red Sox' number one priority was going to be acquiring a top-line starting pitcher. Unfortunately, that just has not happened due to various reasons. Now, there's a possibility that still happens, but I'm not holding my breath, which means someone within this rotation is going to have to take a massive step forward, and that puts all eyes on Brayan Bello. The question here is, can Brayan Bello really be an ace with the Boston Red Sox? So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break that down. We're going to examine Brayan Bello, talk about what he did last year, talk about why he could take a step up, what he's been doing this offseason, and what it could eventually lead to with Brayan Bello and the Boston Red Sox. But before we get into that, we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. We're almost at 700 subs away. So if you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so before we get into where Brayan Bello could go, we need to talk about where he's been and stuff we actually know, and that is his first full season at the Major League level, 2023, which was actually pretty successful, especially for your first season in Major League Baseball. His final stat line last year was a 4.24 ERA with a 4.54 FIP, which is slightly higher than his ERA, but nothing super concerning. He had a 1.388 WHIP. He was striking out about 7.6 per 9 innings, and he was walking about 2.6 in that same time span, which led to a 107 ERA plus, or he was about 7% above the average pitcher in Major League Baseball production-wise for the 2023 season. Now, right off the bat, you may look at those baseline statistics and tell me, Corbin, these aren't ace-level caliber stats. This isn't a guy who has put up ace-level statistics. Why are we talking about him in this video? And technically, you would be right. Those aren't ace-level statistics, but there is also more to this story than just these baseline stats, and it starts with his stamina. Last year, Brayan Bello threw 157 innings. That's 50 more innings than his previous career high, which was all the way back in 2019 when he was just 19 years old with the Greenville Drive. That's a whole lot more innings than what he's used to, and it clearly took a toll on him. In fact, it was probably one of the biggest reasons why he took such a big drop off in the second half, because in the first half of 2023, he was putting up ace caliber statistics. He had a 3.04 ERA with a 1.188 WHIP, holding opponents to just an 83 OPS plus, 17% below league average production, and averaging around 6 innings per every start. That might not on the surface sound like ace caliber statistics, but when we compare it to this year's Cy Young winner, Gerrit Cole, it is pretty similar. Cole in the first half had a 2.85 ERA with a 1.120 WHIP and a 77 OPS plus, averaging again around 6 innings per starts. Brayan Bello's really in that ballpark statistically. He's not very far off on basically every single one of those statistics. He was right in line with what Gerrit Cole was doing in the first half. The problem is the second half, right? And that's really the story of the 2023 Red Sox. Well, actually the last two Red Sox teams, but with Brayan Bello specifically, in the second half, he really fell off. His ERA jumped up to a 5.49 in the same amount of starts, 14. His WHIP jumped up to a 1.494, and his opponent OPS plus jumped all the way up to a 137, which is 37% above league average productions, with his innings dropping down to 5.5, which doesn't seem like a ton when you compare it to 6, but over the course of 14 innings, that's a lot less innings pitched than what you did in the first half. Bello's biggest problem last season was simply stamina. He was not prepared to throw as many innings as he did and ended up running out of gas. So what should we expect from that point of view in 2024? Well, this is something Brayan Bello clearly understands as an issue, which is why he was one of the first players down in Fort Myers this year. He headed down to Fort Myers to spring training the day after winter weekend. He's been down there for a very long time, conditioning, getting himself ready to be able to throw more innings in 2024. In fact, Alex Cora had this to say, quote, "You see him around, he's a grown man now. He gained some weight, he looks stronger, he did a fantastic job this offseason," unquote. With the work he put in this offseason, and now with some experience with what it takes to get through a major league season fatigue-wise, it should be less of an issue going into 2024. Experience is obviously the biggest factor in that. Getting that experience and understanding exactly what it takes to get through a major league season is a massive part, but being able to get your body to that level is obviously a huge part of this as well, and that's what Brayan Bello has been working on doing this offseason. It's the reason he was down there so early. It's the reason he came into this spring training looking stronger and more ready to go, and that's a really great sign in terms of how he's going to be able to step up his game in 2024. Now, the other part of this and the other major standout from last season was his pitch mix. His changeup continued to be one of the best pitches in the entire sport, in the 95th percentile in off-speed run value, meaning only 5% of Major League Baseball had a more valuable off-speed pitch than Brayan Bello last year, and his changeup held opponents to just a 196 average. However, everything else in his pitch arsenal, aside from maybe his sinker, was pretty hittable last year. Specifically, his slider and his four seam, which were getting hit at a 304 and a 310 average throughout the entire season. Figuring that out is going to be vital for him to take the next step. Luckily, that's also been something he's been focusing on this offseason. He actually worked with none other than Pedro Martinez this offseason to try and get his slider into a place it needs to go. Brayan Bello went to Martinez 3 or 4 times this offseason to work on his slider, which Bello says saw an immediate improvement upon working with Pedro in his first presser, saying, quote, "When I got there, my slider wasn't in great shape. So he gave me a few tips. That same day, I was able to get a good grip on it. I was throwing it consistently. Then in the next few days, I was gaining more confidence in it." If Brayan Bello comes into 2024 ready to pitch more innings than he's pitched in his career, and if the work he has put in honing his slider can come together, it's extremely realistic to assume he will be able to take a major step forward with this team, right? Because that's sort of exactly the biggest pain points in 2023. It was you couldn't really get out left-handed hitters all that well because of that slider and because your cutter wasn't working that well, and you just simply ran out of gas. If you can eliminate those two problems, you've got a much different approach for Brayan Bello in 2024, and it makes him an extremely deadly pitcher. He goes from essentially a 2-pitch pitcher to a 3-pitch pitcher. That's going to make all the difference in the world. It's going to allow him to go deeper into games, and it's going to allow him to get more swing and miss, which is something we've been asking for. A 7.4 strikeouts per 9 isn't exactly ace level strikeouts, but if you could get that slider and get even 2 or 3 more strikeouts per 9 innings, that's going to bump you up into that ace caliber category. The big question with this is, with these adjustments, with the improvements that Brayan Bello is planning to make going into the 2024 season, can he step into an ace caliber role? And honestly, I think that's a bit of an unfair question to ask. I think if the Red Sox ownership or front office had done their job this offseason and brought in, at the bare minimum, a legitimate frontline starting pitcher, it not only would have done wonders for this team statistically, but it would have allowed players like Brayan Bello to continue to develop at his own pace without the added pressure that's now on him to be the anchor of this rotation. Because realistically, you brought in Giolito, you've got Cutter, who was pretty good last year and has a pretty high ceiling going into 24. Nick Pivetta looked a lot better last year, but those guys aren't going to be frontline guys. Brayan Bello has the potential to do that, and now every single eye is on him to do that in 2024 for this team to be successful. And the problem with that is that pitching takes a long time to develop, especially all-star pitching in Major League Baseball. It definitely takes longer in most cases than just one singular full season at the big league level. It usually takes legitimate seasons and legitimate seasoning under his belt to get to that level. Now, do I think Brayan Bello has the potential and the ability to be a number 1 starter in Major League Baseball? I do, but I also don't think it's fair that the Boston Red Sox are expecting him to do that this season. In fact, Brayan Bello understands that as well. He was asked whether or not he thinks he can be an ace caliber pitcher for the Boston Red Sox in his presser, and he said, quote, "Yes, of course, that's a goal that I have. I know it might not be this year or next year, but that's a goal I have for the long term." I don't think we should be sitting here expecting Brayan Bello to get a Cy Young votes, to be a 200 inning, 30 start, 3.01 ERA type pitcher in 2024, because that's just not usually how progression works. Now, is it possible that he does this? Absolutely. Like I said, Brayan Bello has the tools to be a legitimate frontline starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. It's clear as day that that's something that is just naturally with him. The other thing too is he's got the work ethic to do that. The fact that he put in so much work this offseason, the fact that he has these goals for himself, the fact that he came into spring training saying, I want to win the opening day starter role, that shows that he not only has the talent to be an ace pitcher, he's got the mentality and the work ethic to do it as well. But to expect him to do that in just one singular season or one singular offseason is, again, it's a whole lot to ask, and I don't even know if it's humanly possible. So in my opinion, expectations for Brayan Bello is not to be an ace. It's to continue to develop, continue to make strides forward, and this year work more as a workhorse type pitcher. Get your ERA right around 4 or under 4 would be ideal. Make yourself that 6 innings. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give this team a chance to win every single time I come out, and that would be a really successful season for him and would definitely cement him at the top of this rotation. But again, ace caliber status is a hard thing to achieve, and I don't think it's really fair to put that on him in just his second full season at the big league level. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, do you think Brayan Bello is going to have a big season like I think he's going to have? And is it to the point where you consider him an ace of the Red Sox? Let me know all your thoughts on what you expect from Brayan Bello going into 2024 in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Just helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.